And now I'd like to introduce President and CEO of the Identity Defenders, Eric Yalen.
Thank you very much. As we go through this, there's a lot of things that in terms of getting your business up to speed with cybersecurity, they can't really be handled on a 30-minute webinar, but we'll at least get you up to speed and give you an idea of where you are at presently in the process. In some cases, I might ask some questions, and hopefully you can respond with your answer in the chat box. So first, a little bit about me. The Identity Defenders is a relatively new business. My background is primarily in marketing and strategic marketing and marketing communications. But there's a lot of people like that out there. And as I started learning more and more about security, it was definitely an area that intrigued me. In fact, I've been a computer user since 1984. So that's when the first PCs were coming out. And I was a proud owner of the second generation Mac, which was a whopping 512K of memory and no hard drive. So that dates me a little bit. In terms of my expertise in the issue of cyber security and identity theft, I am a certified identity protection advisor and a certified red flag specialist. Red flags, if you don't know what they are, that's the rules established by the Federal Trade Commission. My company has gone through the certification things that we need to do to be considered secure and have legal defensibility in case our websites or business suffers from a breach. We're also PCI compliant, and I'll get into that a little bit more because that is something that everybody in the state of Nevada has to address if they accept credit cards. And I'm also a member of the IAPP, which is the Protection Association. One other certification I hold is that I'm also a certified identity theft risk management specialist. So what is cybersecurity? It really is a broad area that's kind of hard to really pin down one real simple definition. But the definition that a lot of people go by is what we see here on the screen. Cybersecurity is the body of technologies, processes, and practices designed to protect networks, computers, programs, and data from attack, damage, or unauthorized access. So when we're talking about the body of technologies, we're not only talking about computers and servers and cloud-based storage, but we're also going to be talking about a lot of other devices that you need to be concerned with. Now, if you are in the process of being hacked for any reason, or if you're getting a lot of access either to your internal systems or your website where you're getting information that someone is trying to get in and your whatever security you have in place is stopping them, you have to know that when they're trying to breach your system, they have a couple different goals in mind. Definitely, they want to hurt you in some way, shape, or form. Depending on the type of business, if they think there's some intellectual property that they can steal and use for their own benefit, that might be one thing. They might want to basically stop you from running your business, and that would be the denial of service attacks. They might be wanting to lock down your system and hit you up for a ransom to unlock your systems and your databases. And then they're also looking for the personal or confidential information that you may be keeping on your employees, on your vendors, and definitely your customers, and make all of that for sale on the black market. Now, cyber criminals obviously are experts at breaking into systems, and they're very good at hijacking home computers and laptops though most of the time you're not going to be, your own personal stuff is not going to be where they want to go because there's not a whole lot of financial incentive for them to break into your home systems. What you're going to find more often or not is if they think that they can get a lot of information from you and sell it and make it easy, they're going to go after you. Interestingly, this is something it's kind of almost a new area of identity theft, and that is that the primary target nowadays are small businesses. And that's because small businesses don't take cybersecurity seriously. They don't necessarily understand it. They think that everyone else is taking care of it because they're storing their data in the cloud, and whoever their storage system is, whether it's Google Drive or Apple, they think that that's all the security they need and they're the experts at it, which really isn't true. What we have found is today, I notice on the slide I say nearly 75% of all attacks today are targeting small businesses. It's actually 73% in the latest report from the Ponemon Institute. Now, if they know that you're working from home, that might be a reason why they might attack you in your home. But I wouldn't be as concerned about your home as I would be about your business. Now, we're going to talk about a couple other terms. Another term you need to be aware of is what's called the Internet of Things, or IoT. And that's all of the other devices that you might have that are attaching to your network. You know, we're now creating the smart homes. In businesses, you might have a security system or your copiers that are all connecting to your network via wireless connections. Interestingly enough, one of the security companies that I actually employ to do my website security, they recently uncovered a major data breach, and the way that the hackers were getting into the system was through the security cameras. Because unfortunately, there are no standards right now regarding the Internet of Things and security associated with the network. In fact, if you can afford it, I would always say, put your Internet things on a separate network and create two networks into your business or your home so that you can have a little bit extra protection on your databases. Now, the real purpose of cybersecurity is to protect against a data breach, which is any incident where customer or employee information is accidentally lost or exposed by a careless employee or stolen by a hacker or a thief. In the last 12 months, again, according to Javelin, 47% of adults had their personal info exposed in some way, shape, or form. And by the way, there are tools on the internet where you can just plug in your email address and it'll tell you if you've ever been in a database that has been breached. Just a little over 2 years ago, 1 in 4 Americans who received a data breach notice also then became victims of identity theft. Now, the law, just so you know, does require that if your business has been hacked in any way, shape, or form, you are required by law to provide at least 1 year of identity theft monitoring to every single person who may have been, whose identity may have been stolen. They don't have to have it stolen, but it just may. Now, it's only 1 year. And so what a lot of hackers are doing is they might have the data, but they might hold on to it for 2 years or more, and that's when they're actually going to start using it just to get around that issue of the monitoring services. Now, there's a lot of different ways to breach databases, and these ways affect both businesses and individuals. So none of these things are specifically just trying to go after people. Individuals. So in email, you're going to hear the term phishing with a PH, and that's basically they're phishing for information, maybe a login to a network or the access into your phone. There's also vishing. Vishing is a voicemail attempt where they're going to leave a message for you. They might be leaving a message that makes them sound really important, like they're from the IRS or they're from the FBI or they're from your bank, and they need you to call them immediately or go to a particular site, and it's just you don't expect them to be fraudulent, so you go ahead and you respond. And then there's also smishing, and that's what the picture is. Smishing is SMS phishing for data. So you see here, you just want a free Walmart gift card, enter gift at the promo center. Oftentimes, by the way, when there's hyperlinks, the hyperlink that you see is not the hyperlink you actually get. So when you have a chance, always hover over even a website address that looks authentic to see in the pop-up screen whether it is actually legitimate or not. 99 times out of 100, if people are actually wanting to talk to you, they're not going to be communicating you in this way. There's also card skimming, which is basically putting a scanner over an existing scanner. That's very popular with ATMs. There's change of address and mail theft, and that's fairly easy to do because you can go online with the post office and just put it in there. Though they do require double confirmation, and they will often send you a card to confirm it. You could just lose your wallet. There's dumpster diving, and even though everything is getting more and more high-tech, low-tech methods do certainly work. Definitely, one thing I always recommend for everybody is never have your Social Security card in your wallet or purse, and also if you're older and are on Medicare or Medicaid, definitely don't carry those cards with you as well. And when they get into your system with, like, again, the phishing, vishing, or smishing, what they're trying to do is remotely and unbeknownst to you install spyware. Spyware is often as a keylogger where they're reporting every single keystroke that you make, which makes it easy to break into the websites you go after. They might be trying to install viruses, worms, Trojan horses, or rootkits. Rootkits basically is getting to the root of your computer system and network. Those are a lot of technical things, and I don't want to overwhelm you with those pieces of information. Now, just in 2015, we had a lot of record breaches, and they're listed here. The biggest one that came out yesterday was Yahoo had a loss of what they think is over 100 million records, and they are sending out emails now saying, please go onto your Yahoo account and change your password, just because they don't know whether or not the records have actually been stolen. Now, what's the record worth? Why do people do this other than they're just malicious and bad people? Well, it's because they can make money. So if you get to the black market, you can find out what a single record might be worth. So think about it. Somebody steals from a small business 1,000 records. Maybe those 1,000 records are worth at least $4. So that's $4,000 that they can quickly make, and it's an easy hack because, again, most small businesses, a lot of home-based businesses, they just don't have the proper security measures. In fact, people are so bad at this that they often have passwords that aren't up to par. I always recommend, by the way, that you get a password management toolkit and you put on military-grade passwords, which are at least 15 characters and include uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and symbols as part of the password, and you should definitely be maintaining a separate password for every single site that you go to. The only thing you should use a generic password if it's just maybe it's a site that you're visiting for fun and it's not going to have anything that's really that important to try to get. Now, right now, healthcare breaches are the most popular. Notice down there at the bottom, a single record in a healthcare breach might be worth $240. By the way, only 1 in 700 hackers is ever caught, so you can see how lucrative it can be. Now, the other thing we have to know about is identity theft. This is really one of the prime reasons why people go and try to hack databases. Personal identity theft has been a big business, and in fact, most people, when they think of identity theft, what do they go to first? They think of LifeLock, which is definitely the biggest company out there, and they do the most in advertising. Interestingly, there's a lot of other ways that you can get monitoring services. Some are only monitoring, some are only looking at your credit, some don't have restoration services, but there's about 50 different options that are out there, so you want to get what's going to work for you, because when you are a victim of identity theft, it really does scare people. I had a friend tell me a few months ago when he was in town that when he was a victim of identity theft, he couldn't sleep for weeks, and he'd wake up in cold sweats because he doesn't know how that person might be using their identity. Oftentimes we think identity theft is always just associated with our credit cards, and for that we're almost all protected because the credit card company might make you liable only for maybe $50 in fraudulent bills. Unfortunately, there's so many databases that you have to look into, and some of the more popular uses of identity is in government benefits, false fraudulent tax returns, medical benefits like going into a hospital and having services done in your name and not theirs. Now, another big area is business identity theft, and this is something that's very new. Business identity theft really started kicking off in about 2010, and small business is the most frequent target because they're just frankly easier. We don't hear the news about all of the attacks on small business because they're not as interesting as maybe the breach of Target or the breach of Yahoo, which just affects far more people. Now, business identity theft has become such a big deal, and you'll see this in a little bit. I'll mention that the Secretary of States around the country have really taken this to heart because they're the ones who maintain your business registrations. And so what often will happen is those databases will get hacked. If you're an LLC, they might change your managing member to be them, or they might add themselves as a managing member of your LLC, and then they'll try to open up accounts in your name. They'll create shell corporations. If your business is XYZ Corp, they might create an XYZ-Inc. and have a intentionally similar name. They might be using voice over IP and create a virtual telephone service that is a local number in area code 702, but they're actually somewhere else in the world. Maybe they're in Russia. And then, of course, I think we've all been aware of the fact that they might have some bogus websites that just happen to look extremely similar to your bank. And that's how they're going to get data. The problem is, when it comes to identity theft, there's a lot of protections for individual consumers, but the Universal Commercial Code doesn't provide a whole lot of protections to businesses. So when you make a business charge using your personal credit card, the credit card company isn't necessarily going to cover that particular charge. Also, under the Uniform Commercial Code, there's shorter reporting timelines, there's more liability. It's just, you need to be aware of that. And in fact, that's why my company is one of the few that offers business identity theft monitoring and restoration services. Now, if something happens in your business, the cost is rather high, and where it affects you is you're going to lose your customers because they don't trust you anymore. They won't want to be putting their information in your hands anymore. They might be hiring lawyers. If it's an employee that's a victim of identity theft, they might be coming to work, but their mind is elsewhere, and they're going to spend employee time trying to fix all of their records. And when it comes to cleaning up the mess, look at this. Companies will spend an average of 1,600 work hours per incident and a cost up to $92,000 per victim. And that's why the FBI has reported that when a small business is the victim of identity theft, 60% of those businesses will be forced to close their business within a year because they just don't have the resources to combat it. And like I said before, only 1 in 700 identity thieves are ever caught. Now, here's some other statistics that you should be aware of. So far, since 2005, nearly 1 billion records have been stolen, and several obviously have been stolen multiple times. Now, before I said it was 73% of small businesses are victims. Well, here from the International Council of Small Business, they're now saying 85% of fraud occurs in small business. But interestingly enough, almost 60% of the stealing of data and the breach of your systems is coming from your employees. So you need to make sure that you have policies and processes in place that would make it extremely difficult for your employees to get that data. As I mentioned before, it has become such a serious issue that in 2011, the National Associations of Secretary of State created a task force to look into this, and it's gotten so much more worse, I guess, that's maybe not the best way to put it. It's gotten so bad that they reconstituted that task force this past year in March, and in Nevada, our Secretary of State is one of the members. So, is your business prepared? And again, as I said before, most small businesses are not prepared. Again, I go back to the 73% because that was from Semantic's Internet Security Threat Report. We talked about the business going out of business within a year. Part of the reason that you go out of business is the average cost of a data breach. Remember, most of these are small and medium-sized businesses and they're not the targets. Certainly Target brings that up. But, can you cover $2 to $3 million in a data breach? Do you have cybersecurity insurance to help cover those expenses if you are victimized? And by the way, 48 states and some of our territories, they do require notification of security breaches whenever there's a potential theft of personal or confidential information. So again, I mentioned, do you have cyber insurance? If you are doing anything on the internet, whether it's cloud storage, whether you're capturing just email addresses, if you're processing credit cards, you want to make sure that you have cyber insurance. But just having cyber insurance is not enough. As I mentioned before, your main cost that they're going to cover is they're going to cover the cost of restoring your good name. They're going to be helping you provide identity theft monitoring services to all the people's records, people whose records may have been taken or even may not. But guess what? They're not going to pay you at all unless you mitigate the risk. So ultimately, mitigating that risk is your responsibility. An identity is stolen, one identity is stolen every 2 seconds. Data breaches are very commonplace. In fact, it's gotten bad enough that it's really not a matter of if, but when you and your business will get hacked. By the way, I'm creating some new websites right now, and I have some security on both of those websites, but on one that isn't even live and I'm not going to be doing transactions on, I do have some security on that website, and believe it or not, I get emails anytime there's an attempt at unauthorized access. And on my one website that's just in development and it's not even live yet, I am averaging 50 attempts on a daily basis of someone trying to breach into my system. Now, whenever I get that notice, it gives me the IP address, and you can do a search off of an IP address and find out where is it coming from. And I can tell you that I've been hack attempts into that website have come from Russia, they've come from France, they've come from Pakistan, they've come from Indonesia, they've come from the Philippines, and they even come from other places in the United States. And again, it's not even a live site and it doesn't have anything, but they noticed that there was a website out there through whatever program that they have that finds these sites for them, because obviously they're not doing it by clicking on links, they're just writing programs to sniff you out, and I'm getting about 50 hits a day. So there's a lot of data security laws and regulations that you need to be aware of and you need to be in compliance of to protect your business. The laws and regulations include the red flag rules from the Federal Trade Commission. There's also the GLBA, or the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act, which is going to cover any type of business like insurance or banking, mortgages that deal with financial data. There's HIPAA laws from the Department of Health and Human Services, and that's obviously if you provide any type of health-related service. And then there's the laws from the Department of Commerce, and there's PCI compliance. PCI stands for the payment card industry, and there's laws that are specific to the state of Nevada. So let's talk a little bit about those laws. The most important ones everybody needs to be aware of and follow the red flags rule, which was created in 2008. And basically what it means is you need to create policies and procedures for your employees to be able to, have that red flag go up if somebody's calling or asking for some type of information and it seems a little bit shady. By the way, one of the requirements is that you provide training to your employees at least once a year. And again, you have written policies and procedures for all employees. Again, I talked about the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act, and that also is a federal law. And some of the sections in there are the financial privacy rule. That's why I mentioned insurance agents and banks, because they're definitely dealing with that, also accountants. There's the safeguards rule, and then there's other provisions as well. Knowing the details isn't necessarily that important because all of these laws are very, very similar in nature. And if you can be compliant for one, it's fairly easy to be compliant in all. We also talked before about the Health Insurance Portability Act. I mentioned before that there's 48 states that now have one or more laws making business and organizations responsible for protecting consumer information. This includes breach notification laws, identity theft prevention laws, and security laws. And in fact, in the state of Nevada, most people don't know this, but if your business accepts credit cards, you as the business must be PCI compliant. Most people think that just because they have the right merchant services provider and your merchant services provider is PCI compliant, that that's good enough. In the state of Nevada and in the state of Washington and Minnesota, they have separate laws that require you as a business to be PCI compliant. Now, if you're compliant with the red flags rule, if you're compliant with HIPAA, getting compliant on PCI is relatively easy. It just basically requires going to a company that can do vulnerability scans on your systems, and then once you pass that and show that you've done all the other things, you can get that compliance. If you don't show that you're PCI compliant and you suffer a data breach, there is a lot of expense that you might have to go through to clear up and keep your business running. So what is the cost? And they are very steep. Federal fines up to $3,500 per customer record lost or stolen. If you're an officer of the company, if you're on the board, if you're an owner, it could be $10,000 per violation. State fines up to $5,000 per customer record lost or stolen. From the credit card companies, again, they might pass on a lot of things to their customers, but when you have a data breach and they have to start covering fraudulent transactions, that's why they're going to penalize you up to $10,000 on the first violation, and they might just cancel your services completely. And if they cancel the services and you do 95% of your business via credit card, now you're seriously put in a bind. There can be civil penalties up to $500,000 for the failure to protect data, and there's also criminal penalties that can include jail time. Now, there's some things, those are very tangible, monetary losses that you may face, but there's also the intangible costs of non-compliance. It's going to totally affect your personal reputation, your business brand. Your brand is basically your promise to your customers, and if you're promising your customers safety and security, and you violate that trust, you've destroyed your brand. When you have a breach, customers are going to take their business elsewhere. Just look at Target. I think Target saw a loss of business year to date when they had their breach of 10 to 20%. Then they have access to your bank accounts. They can open up false accounts in your name that you're now held liable for. And what's the recovery of that? So there's just, it doesn't pay to not be compliant. So again, I'll just reiterate that. 60% of customers have said that they would not return to a business that experienced a breach. You've now created a lot of expenses that you weren't prepared for, and in many cases, you actually have to shut down your business during an audit because your data's been affected. So let's create the scorecard for each of your businesses, and let's see how well you are doing in terms of your compliance. So what I'm going to be asking you is a series of 10 questions, and all you need to do is to yourself answer yes or no. Keep track of all of your yeses and all of your nos, and then we'll see what kind of risk and exposure you have. So question number 1, do you have a formal information security policy in your business? If you do, and that's great, have you reviewed it and updated it at all in the last 12 months? Now your policy, by the way, must include technical, administrative, and physical security and privacy policies and guidelines. Question number 2, do you have a dedicated information security administrator that is trained and responsible for managing your security policies and procedures? By the way, this can be an outside contractor, it doesn't have to be an inside person. Do you have an employee staff training program for information privacy and security? When you've created your policies and guidelines, you present that as part of the employee handbook when you bring on a new hire. And then are you going over that with formal training every single year to make sure that everyone is cognizant of whatever they must be responsible for? When they sign up as a new employee, have they signed the information security and privacy agreement? Do you have a detailed security breach response plan? What are you going to do when it happens? Who are you going to contact? Do you have an inventory of names and numbers and processes that you must do when you have a security breach?
Sorry to interrupt. Proceed at the conference room at 10:30 for a meeting.
Do you have policies and procedures regarding how to securely dispose of electronic paper customer and employee information? What do you do when you take a computer out of service? What do you do with your hard drives? If you're leasing your copiers now have hard drives in them and it stores information. So if you're copying, for instance, somebody's tax returns, that information, an image of that might be stored in the computer. What are you doing with the copier memory? Do you have shredders to shred information? Do you have a box to put all of your paper copies in that a company will come in and take on a regular basis for shredding? Do you have security software installed and updated on every single computer that connects to your business, whether it's at home or at work, if you can get remote access? What about your telephones? Do you have something for your mobile devices, for your iPads? Do you have a certified computer security professional doing any manual security checkups on every single computer, at least quarterly or semi-annually? Do you encrypt electronic copies of customer and employee information? If you're sending emails that have personal or confidential information, are you using encrypted email? Or are you just sending it through your regular Gmail or Yahoo account? And you have outside vulnerability assessments for your business conducted by a third party on quarterly or semi-annual basis. Again, one of the laws is you must be PCI compliant. That requires an outside vulnerability scan to give you a certificate that says, yes, your systems are safe or not. And you need to know, by the way, that Apple computers, if that's how you have set up your enterprise and your network, they tend to be a lot more secure than Windows computers. So, if you've been following the questions and answering yes or no to all of these previous 10 questions, If you answered yes to 5 or more questions, your business is considered to be of high risk. If you answered yes to 6 to 8 questions, it's only medium risk. And if you answered yes to 9 or 10 questions, you're at low risk. So you got to know that information security is a company-wide mission. It's something that everyone must be associated with. And in protecting your business, that's why this company is such as mine, because you can outside your compliance department to us, and we can help you with the process. Certification is a very simple process. The steps are here. It's going to take you probably 1 to 2 weeks to become certified. Plus, you also have to make physical changes to what you do. And the reason we like providing what we do is it's very affordable. It's going to be about the same as a lot of maybe your cyber insurance policy. Depending on the size of your business, we charge based on the size of the business. But it is affordable. You got to remember that security is a necessity, and it's something that you must do to cover yourself. We, by the way, like a multi-layered approach. So Security Metrics is our third-party vendor that comes in and does your PCI compliance. We work with Axiom Cyber Solutions, which is another member of the chamber. They do managed firewalls for your network. I provide website cloud-based security through Security, which basically sends all of the traffic to them first. They decide whether it's clean or not before they send it to your website, and they guarantee your uptime. We use CipherPost Pro for email encryption, and then we also deal with a bunch of other identity things. If you're interested to get a snapshot of your business and how it's appearing online to others, you can go to theidentitydefenders.com/scan and get a peek into what your business looks like. That is a free service for everybody. And then we've created, with the Las Vegas Chamber, I don't have it on the LV Chamber's website yet in the discounts, but there will be links to some of our products that include identity theft protection for business, for individuals, families, and InfoSafe certification. As a member of the Chamber, you can get about a 25% discount. I will get that up by early next week. So that is pretty much everything for today. You can get more information at theidentitydefenders.com, or you can call me at 942-0734, or if you have questions right now, I'm more than happy to take them.
I'm not seeing any questions at this time, but I do want to thank you all for tuning in today to this webinar, and I also want to thank the President and CEO of the Identity Defenders, Eric, one last time for donating his time to share all of this awesome information with us today. As just another reminder, we will not be having a Chamber University next week because we will be out at the Governor's Conference. But we do encourage you to check out our event schedule at lvchamber.com for a list of the October webinars. Thank you again for tuning in, and have a great day.